I'm Captain Hoff, CEO of Founderspace, the leading global startup accelerator. I'm also author of the award-winning books, Make Elephants Fly, Surviving a Startup, and The 5 Forces. Technology of tomorrow. What are the technologies that are being developed right now that will have a huge impact on our future? Today, I'm going to speak in depth about some of the key technologies that are emerging and describe how they will play out in society, what impact they will have on both business and our lives. 5D nano storage. In the laboratory right now, scientists are working on developing a new material. They are using nanotechnology to create 5D material that can store massive amounts of information in a very small space. But what's even more amazing is the duration of this material. Normal materials like a magnetic hard drive or an optical disc, they have limited lifespans. They will begin to decay after a certain amount of time and you will lose the information. But on 5D nano storage, the information can be preserved for billions of years. They estimate up to 14 billion years, and that is the life of the universe. So we can start encoding information now, and potentially 14 billion years from now, someone could find it, access it, and retrieve it. 3D bioprinting. There is a revolution going on right now in 3D printing. But what most people don't realize is you can print with many different materials, not just wood or plastics or resins. You can actually print with living cells. Right now, in Israel, scientists have actually printed a 3D human heart. This is a heart made of human cells that they printed on a 3D printer. Now, what's unique about this is that this heart is actually tiny. It's about the size of a rabbit heart. So they can't transplant it into a human yet. But what they hope to achieve in the coming years is printing a full-sized human heart. And not just a heart. You can imagine them printing livers and kidneys and all these different organs. So if your kidney fails or your liver fails, you could actually go out and get a transplant just by having a hospital print out the 3D organ. Now, right now, around the world, there is a shortage of these organs. So if we can do this, if we can achieve this technology in the coming years, it will help alleviate a huge problem. In America alone, 18 people die every day because they can't get an organ. So this technology, this 3D bioprinting of organs, cannot come too soon. Micro windmills. Why would you create a tiny, tiny windmill? See this picture? That windmill is so small, it fits on a single penny and you can hardly see it. What is the point of this? Well, scientists have developed this technology as a power source. Just like windmills in the real world can generate power, this tiny windmill can generate power from very small currents of air. And what that means is that as we deploy IoT devices everywhere, these IoT devices will need power sources. One possibility is micro windmills. A micro windmill could potentially generate enough power to keep an IoT device fully charged forever. And that is the future. Asteroid mining. It may seem like science fiction, but today in Silicon Valley, companies have already raised huge amounts of capital to go out and mine asteroids, to go into deep space and actually bring asteroids back to Earth. Why would they want to do this? Well, because asteroids contain very precious metals, including platinum, gold, rare earth minerals. All of these, if brought back to Earth, could be worth a fortune. They estimate that a single asteroid could be worth billions or hundreds of billions of dollars. So there are potentially huge profits. Even Goldman Sachs did an analysis of this, and they confirmed that in the future, we will be mining asteroids. However, these startups, one of them being Deep Space Industries, ran into trouble. It turned out to be much harder than they thought to mine an asteroid, to go out, build a spacecraft, go out into deep space, bring that asteroid back, and actually get it to the surface of the Earth. So this probably won't happen in the near future. In fact, these companies have shut down operations. That being said, there is still potential. Now, asteroids contain not only very precious metals and minerals, but they also contain ice. Some of them have lots of ice. And what ice is water. And water contains the two fundamental components of rocket fuel, hydrogen and oxygen. So in the future, what we are going to see is our spacecraft going out and mining asteroids, not for their precious metals, but for their ice. And this is not only going to be happening with asteroids, it's also going to be happening on the moon and on Mars. Because below the surface of the moon and below the surface of Mars, scientists predict there are huge quantities of ice. And this ice will be needed as space pioneers like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk push the limits of humanity. So stay tuned. Asteroid mining isn't here yet, but it will be coming. 3D printed gills. In Tokyo at RCA Lab, they are actually working on developing gills from a 3D printer. These are gills like a fish would have, so that as somebody with this mask on swims through the water, they can actually breathe oxygen, just like fish do. It seems too good to be true, and it's in R&D right now, but eventually we may have devices like this, so we don't need bulky scuba tanks and all this gear. We can literally put on a little mask and start to explore the ocean on our own. I'll tell you, I want one of these. Cow power. When you look at a cow, you usually don't think of it as a power source. You think of it as food, a hamburger, a steak, something you're going to eat. But in reality, cows produce huge amounts of gas. And this is a potential energy source. Toyota has been exploring how to get this gas from cows. Now, what is the gas? Through a fermentation process in the cow's gut, they actually emit large amounts of methane. Now, the methane comes out through their rear, and Toyota is actually experimenting with building a capture unit, something that the cows would wear on their rear that would capture this methane. Why do they want to do it? Well, for a couple reasons. One, methane is a great fuel. We could use this to power vehicles and factories and many other things. Second, the methane that cows produce is a huge source of greenhouse gases. People don't realize it, but the livestock industry alone produces 37% of all human-made methane into the atmosphere. And methane itself contributes 20% to the greenhouse gas effect. So if we can actually recycle this methane instead of letting it go into the atmosphere, we could not only be powering our vehicles in a much greener way, but we could also be preventing climate change. Healing circuits. What is a self-healing circuit? Well, this is a circuit that, if the connections are broken, can repair itself. And it does it through nanotechnology. New types of materials in nanotechnology make this possible. Now, why is a self-healing circuit useful? Well, first of all, we have circuitry in everything, computers everywhere. Now imagine a ship is out to sea. That's a very corrosive environment, very tough on electronics. Well, if the circuits get corroded, they could potentially heal themselves, and the ship could keep using their computer. Even more importantly, in outer space, we're spending huge amounts of money now to send rockets into space, and eventually we'll be colonizing Mars and the moon. And when we have our machinery on space, those environments, especially Mars, can be quite harsh. And the atmosphere can be really corrosive. So self-healing circuits could be incredibly valuable for that. And finally, we are going to be putting more and more electronics into our bodies. And there is a problem with this. Many of the circuits now, the chips and other things and the filaments that we put into our bodies, they corrode over time. Could it be possible with nanotechnology to prevent these from corroding and even allow them to heal themselves? Nano chainsaws. In the laboratory, they have actually been developing and building these tiny nanobots, these nanorobots, and one of the configurations is a chainsaw. Why would you want to build a nano chainsaw? Well, one reason is cancer. Scientists are experimenting now with directing these nanobots through the body and targeting tumors, and using these nano machines to actually cut through the malignant cells and help eliminate the tumor and cure the cancer. Mind readers. At Toronto University, they are now experimenting with developing mind reading devices. How are they doing this? They're using a technology called EEG. This technology is pretty primitive. It's been around for a long time. But using AI, we are getting better at decoding the signals, the brain waves coming. So if you wear a cap with sensors on it, the more sensors, the better, you can actually begin to read these brain waves. And what they found out in their experimentation is that they can detect things we never thought possible. One of them is actually extracting images from the brain. That's right. They ran an experiment where a person, a subject, looked at a computer screen at an image, and then the computer, without seeing that image, could extract and replicate it just from their brainwaves. Now, why could this mind-reading technology be so useful in the future? Well, think about it. As the technology improves, the fidelity improves. Right now, it's kind of crude and primitive, but it will get better over time. As it improves, we can use this for all sorts of things. You could use it potentially for reading your dreams, extracting images from your dreams. You could potentially use it in a court of law. We all know that our memories are fallible, like when we actually see stuff. But we could actually, right after a crime, extract the images from a person's brain. Police could do this. So if you have a criminal and you catch the criminal, you could figure out if they're lying or not, what really happened. Same with the victims. This technology has huge potential in the future, and we're just at the beginning. Epidermal electronics. Scientists around the world are now developing what we call epidermal electronics. Another name is e-tattoos or electronic tattoos, but they aren't a tattoo. They're actually more like a sticker you can apply to your skin, except this sticker contains electronics. It can be a miniature computer that you can stick on any part of your body. Now, what's amazing about e-tattoos is that they can be useful for all sorts of things. So they're working right now on these e-tattoos that could measure your pulse rate, your blood pressure, your vital signs, all these different things. They may, in the future, even be able to analyze the molecular content of your sweat to determine if you have something wrong with your body. Another application for e-tattoos is for reading your brain waves, for brain-computer interfaces. These would be very light. You could just stick them behind your ears or make them look just like skin tone, put them on your forehead. People might not even notice them. And you can develop a device that can actually begin to read your brain waves through EEG. So we are just at the beginning of what we can do with epidermal electronics. You know, you will see a lot of fun things, like you can stick something on your hand that flashes, makes lights. Eventually, you may be able to have an interface like a touch screen on your hand, on the palm of your hand or the back of your hand or any part of your body. And as this technology matures and becomes more viable, we are going to see products utilizing it, products in the marketplace, the consumer marketplace and the business marketplace. So stay tuned. Humanoid robots. In the future, our robots, our machines are going to look more and more like us. Why is this? Well, I will tell you. We, as human beings, are programmed to actually read each other's faces, the expressions, even micro expressions that you don't notice consciously. Your brain can actually interpret those, and that influences how you react and communicate to people. So instead of talking to a box, which doesn't give us much information, we are going to be talking to computers that look and act and express like us. Now, Hiroshi Ishiguro at Osaka University is one of the people leading the way in developing lifelike robots. Can you tell in that picture who is the real Hiroshi and who is the robot? Well, I guarantee you, in this decade, you will walk into a room and there will be robots there and people there, and it will be very difficult for you to distinguish between the two. You will actually have to go up and touch them or talk to them to figure it out. And beyond this decade, robots and humans are going to become virtually indistinguishable. Now, this is going to be incredibly valuable for us as human beings. So if we have a caretaker in an old age home, instead of it looking like a robot, it can look like an actual person, yet it can take care of us day and night, 24 hours, doing whatever we need. And that is just the beginning. Artificial wombs. At the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, they have actually constructed an artificial womb where they have given birth to a baby lamb outside the mother. This is amazing. Now, why are they working on it? Well, they are working on it because there are a lot of premature babies born every year. And these babies that are high risk of complications and even dying. With an artificial womb, you could take a very premature baby, put it in the artificial womb, and allow it to mature and then go out into the world like a normal baby. So, in the future, these artificial wombs, they may not just be used for premature babies. If there is a couple that has trouble conceiving, they actually may go to an artificial womb and actually use that to conceive. Or women who are working and do not want the hassle of actually carrying a baby to term. You know, it is a big inconvenience, especially if you're a busy person. So they may choose to actually put their baby in an artificial womb. Now, this sounds crazy, and it is, but this technology is coming, and people will begin to use it in many different ways. Artificial embryos. At Cambridge University, scientists have actually created artificial embryos from stem cells. It's amazing, but embryos are the key to human life. And here we are, able to create them artificially. What does that mean for our future? Well, if you combine this technology with an artificial womb, you could actually produce children without people being involved. It sounds like something from science fiction, but we are almost at that point right now. And this could be incredibly valuable. For couples who are infertile, they could actually produce a baby without really producing one, just using their DNA and these stem cells and an artificial womb to give birth to a child. Also, as we begin to expand into deep space and beyond, we may not send humans on that journey. We may send stem cells and DNA, and when the spaceship finally reaches its destination, if the planet is habitable, it may actually create human life on the planet from our fundamental building blocks. And that is where we're headed. Cloning. The process of cloning animals has come a long way. We began with Dolly the sheep in the beginning, but now we can clone all types of animals. It's amazing. Cattle ranchers are actually cloning cows. They can clone prize cows, ones that would cost a huge amount of money to breed. But even today, with the technology we have, that is not viable. So you probably won't see cloned meat on your table anytime soon. The reason it's not viable is it's just too expensive. The cost of cloning has to come down before the meat we eat can be cloned. Yet the US government has already approved this. So some ranchers can actually sell cloned meat, and you may be eating it without even knowing it. Another form of cloning that has really taken off is cloning horses. Now, these aren't race horses. Like race horses, cloning doesn't work as well as you think it would. They've been trying to get it there, but still breeding has managed to beat it out. Eventually, though, cloning may pass it up. But where cloning really works well is in the game of polo. You know, when you're playing polo on a horse, the rider needs to switch horses over and over and over, and you have an entire team of horses. If all of these horses can be from the same original DNA, you gain a competitive advantage because the horses can think like each other. It's like twins. They can actually communicate in shorthand where other people wouldn't know what they're wanting to do. These horses would know what the other is about to do. The rider also doesn't have to adapt to a new horse every time they switch horses because it's the same horse. So where are we going with cloning in our future? Well, we can do it with animals now, and we are doing it. But in the future, will we clone each other? Will we clone human beings? You know, would it be nice to have a little version of you as your child? An exact replica of you and raising this child? People will opt for this. I guarantee it. If it is legal, people will do it. A lot of people would love to have themselves as a child and raise that child and give that child maybe what they personally couldn't have. Also, they would have a bond with this child that goes beyond anything else because they would have exactly the same DNA. So ask yourself, would you clone yourself and create a baby? That's my question. Living brain inside a robot. This has actually happened. Scientists at Reading University in the UK have actually taken a miniature brain and put it inside a robot. This wasn't an ordinary brain. This was a brain that they grew from stem cells. They call it a mini brain. But they can grow these brains actually from human stem cells. So they are miniature human brains. And they took one of these and they put it inside a robot so that that robot could actually be controlled by the brain. And they did some experiments and they found out that the robot could actually learn to navigate itself around obstacles using that mini brain. Now that mini brain was tiny, a little tiny mini brain. However, they have the capability now to grow larger and larger brains. So someday in the future, we may see a world where the robots around us not only have AI and electronics and computer parts in them, but they actually have living organs like our brains inside them. So when they achieve consciousness, it could be a consciousness parallel to our own. The robot would know us and know what it is to be like us because they would have our brains. Gene-edited salmon. It's not only crops that we are using CRISPR to edit and change for our benefit. Now it's livestock. And a startup called AquaBounty has chosen salmon as their first target. What they've done is they have genetically edited salmon so it can grow 3 times larger in roughly the same time. What does this mean? This means that fish farms can become much more profitable. And in the future, as we genetically edit the foods that we eat, whether it's crops or animals, we are going to receive a lot of benefits. These crops and animals may resist disease. They may taste better. They may not spoil as quickly. All of these things are coming to a grocery store near you. In fact, they are already in grocery stores. They have been selling these AquaBounty salmon in Canada for years. And after 24 years, the US FDA finally approved it for sale here in the United States. So when you go to your grocery store, someday you're going to see a very large salmon there. And that salmon is going to be an AquaBounty genetically edited fish. Stay tuned. We may also see genetically edited pigs, genetically edited cows, genetically edited chickens. They're all coming to grocery stores in our future. Mammoth reborn. How would you like to go to a zoo with your kids and actually show them a woolly mammoth? Well, that may be possible in our near future. Right now, George Church, one of the leading geneticists in the world at Harvard University, has been experimenting with how to revive the woolly mammoth. Now, this isn't quite the woolly mammoth that lived in prehistoric ages. What it is they've taken woolly mammoth DNA and they are using an embryo from an existing similar elephant, and they inject that DNA into the elephant embryo, and then they put it back into a female elephant, and what it will do is give birth to a mammophant. It's like a woolly mammoth combined with an elephant, but it will have many of the traits in the appearance of a real woolly mammoth. If he can succeed in doing this for woolly mammoths, we could have dinosaurs. Jurassic Park will be a reality. It won't just be a movie. All of these things. We could even potentially bring back all these different species that are going extinct now due to climate change. So the potential is enormous, and it's very exciting, and we are just taking the first baby steps. Invisibility cloak. All you Harry Potter fans out there, the future is going to bring you a treat, and that is an invisibility cloak. No, this isn't magic. It's actually science. It can actually work, and they've proven it in the lab. So how is it possible to see through somebody when they're wearing a cloak? Well, what they're actually doing is you're not seeing directly through them. What they're doing is they are rerouting the light around the person and back out the other side. So the light beam from behind them is coming out the front through nanotechnology. This is how invisibility cloaks are being developed. And you will see in the future, these will be used for the military. These will be used for all sorts of different things. Hopefully not to spy on each other, but it could be, police, detectives, FBI, they could all be using different forms of invisibility cloaks in their jobs. And maybe even we'll use them in our personal life. If you don't want to be recognized when you go out to the store, you could don an invisibility cloak. Who knows? But this technology is coming, and probably within the next decade, we will see invisibility cloaks entering the marketplace and people actually using them. I hope you enjoyed the talk. If you liked it, you can come to founderspace.com. You can check out our latest events, contact us, and see my latest books, Make Elephants Fly, Surviving a Startup, and The 5 Forces. You can also find me on all the major social networks. Just search for Founderspace.